go through introductions. And hopefully more people will hop in. I hope they haven't gone to the other location.
They read this every day.
I hope with
Well,
the
you sent a reminder today. and I saw that.
and the newsletter and at the last meeting. So if they went to the chapel, I think I'm gonna put that on them.
If they went to the chapel, they better be getting married.
Yep. Or yeah,
Or
hopefully
some-
only married,
Yeah.
since it is a funeral chapel.
Okay, so first let's talk to the people on Zoom and have them introduce themselves. Kristen, you want to go first?
You bet. I'm Kristen Mortensen. I am the Community Preparedness and Fire Prevention Specialist for the DNRC's Southwestern Land Office.
Thank you. Do we have Laura on yet?
Yes, Laura's on.
Laura, do you want to introduce yourself? I don't see her.
I don't see her little icon.
She is on, but she's muted. So I'm wondering if maybe she's away from the screen, but she is right here.
Oh, okay, there.
Okay, we'll catch her at the end. Who else was on Zoom?
I think
Thought I saw three.
Yeah, it's Jeff and Eric from Ravalli County OEM.
Oh, hi. All right, and then why don't we start with Roylene in the back and we'll move forward.
Morning call, Victor Fire, coffee's made for any of you guys that want some.
Kevin Seiler, Pheasants Forever. Dan McConnell, Hamilton Unit Forester, DNRC.
Hey, I'm Zach Phillips, fairly new resident here in the valley. Me and my spouse should run a targeted grazing business for education.
cool.
Lauren.
Hi, Laura.
Al Babel, Roger Farm and Ranch.
Mike Kent, with the Valley Board of Realtors.
Ken Brewer, Florence Fire.
Christina Ragsdale, local rancher and prior experience in another life with emergency communications.
Judy Anderson, private landowner.
I'm Ella Langer. I'm the Fire Adapted Communities Coordinator for DNRC in Hamilton.
And maybe Laura's back. Can you hear us, Laura? Okay, I guess we'll move ahead.
Laura Jackson.
Laura Jackson. All right. So Kristen is going, oh. Are you gonna go or am I gonna go? I'll
You
go
can go,
ahead,
yeah.
okay. Kristen is going to give us a report.
Yeah, I love this. I have my own slide.
I'm glad.
You do not have to enlarge me by any means. People don't need to be scared so much.
We just want to see your face.
Well, okay. Luckily, one thing I'm wanted to mention tonight was that actually this will be the last time that you're seeing my face on the screen. I'm going to be leaving my position. Actually, as of next week physically, I will still be with the DNRC for another month, but I have a lot of comp time that I will be taking. So I just decided it was time to spend a little more time with my family and actually enjoy this beautiful place that we live in a little bit more. And so taking a step back from the position, but I really wanted to let everybody know how much I really appreciate all that each one of you do for the county and the residents and your neighbors. And it takes a lot to show up to our events and these meetings every week, every month. Not every week, but every month and support all of the efforts that we're doing. And it's appreciated and it is needed. Like, you guys are all making a difference and making a huge difference. when I look back at where we started, Fire in the Red has come a long way. And we have a signed CWPP, which I think is a really, it's a crowning achievement, and it is such a great blueprint for the future. And there's a lot of exciting projects that are ahead of you guys. And so I wish I could go along with you, but you are in great hands with each of you sitting there, but as well as Ella and Judy. They care, they give so much time, and I know you guys are gonna do awesome things. And as I get bored twiddling my thumbs, you'll probably see me here or there popping up at events, because I'm sure I will just have to check in and see how things are going. But good luck with everything. And, it's just been a real pleasure to work with each and every one of you. So I will miss you, but you guys are going to do awesome things. So thanks, and thanks for the ride.
And for those of you who don't know,
Gonna miss you, President.
for those of you who are new and don't know, Kristen and Anna Anna from the Forest Service and Kristen from the Department of Natural Resources and Conservation kind of birthed this organization. So she's our birth mother. Yeah.
Kristen,
A
I
lot
do
more
have a
kids
question.
suddenly than I had before.
Kristen, can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, this is Mike. Could you forward me the contact information for that HIZ training that was developed for the realtors so we can get that on our schedule for training next year?
You bet. I would. Well, I don't know who is going to be in my position, but Ella will be fully capable to give that training. And so I will try to remember, and Ella remind me to share that with you. And yeah, Ella can put that on. So I would just go through Ella, and she can get it, even if I forget to send it to her, she can get it through our Julia Berkey, our program manager. But you bet. And yeah, we'll make sure to get that done. And I would say put it on your work with Ella to go ahead and put it on the schedule, because it's finished and ready to be implemented.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
I just realized Russ isn't here.
It's election day, and Forest Service or federal workers have it off. So they will not be here today.
2 hours.
Huh? 2 hours off, but
That's
none of
2 hours
them
off.
are,
4 hours.
Oh, yeah.
yes, and all of them left early and will not be coming tonight. It was a ghost town, and I just went home.
Okay. So hopefully the video works so we can look at it again later and make some notes.
Yes. Russ also very sadly has food poisoning, so even if it wasn't election day, he would not be here. So he'll be taking notes on it later.
Oh.
He ate the cake in the conference room. No.
So, did all of you get a chance to see last month's minutes? We have heard input from people at the last meeting that we should probably be giving people an opportunity to approve or revise the minutes if there are things that we didn't capture correctly. So does anybody have any concerns with the minutes that they saw online? Laura, are you listening?
Yep, I'm here.
Did you have any issues with the minutes?
I didn't, but to be honest, I've been away for the last 10 days and I haven't looked at them. So mea culpa, I apologize, but Yeah, so, I mean, someone can, yeah, move approval and then we can all say yes, even in our ignorance, I guess.
Well, how about if we leave it this way? We will assume they are approved and you have 5 days to get to Ella and I with any changes that you find after you read it.
Okay, thanks, that's great.
Okay,
And these are recorded. correct?
Yes, these are recorded, they are on YouTube.
Question, we can go back to the recording.
right. But still, there's one person who is perceiving what we're saying, and it could be that it was received differently by
Right.
other people.
I understand. I just clarifying that we have.
We just want to make sure that everybody in the room
The bar, the restaurant's. I attend. Hello. It was sunrise. No. Well, we were in Chico, not the hot springs, we were in Chico. Chico, good friend of ours. Stored some old Hawkman considering. So now she insisted we come over. I said, sure, let's go. Cold, hot, and all that other stuff. Yeah, it's getting built up, sort of like the bitter truth.
Interesting what's happening down there. Three friends that bought one of those 20 lots.
But there's nothing on it, it's just.
Did we lose the meeting?
Yeah, I think so. I guess there's glitches in Victor too.
Yeah, we're back now, or I'm back at any rate.
Yeah, but they're not. We lost Ella and the whole council. So, but she'll
Oh,
come back on when she discovers this. I sent her a text.
okay.
They're so distraught that you're leaving. They just couldn't take it.
I don't think so. They're all dancing around right now. Yes, the wicked old witch is gone.
So we are now the meeting. I like it.
Yeah, we're the virtual side.
Wearing your orange up on the coolie when you're hanging?
Yeah.
Good.
Well, I'll
Yeah.
open the floor for any motions.
You guys know the story about the first house here on Silver Ridge Road. Used to be Phil Taylor's. He was part of the table. Kennebo and Taylor's the name of the road up here. Well, Phil Taylor-
I'm gonna have to leave in a few minutes, so, well, we'll see.
Yeah, Barry's.
I know we need to be out.
This is Carl.
There you are.
They're back.
So, Bill, this is great. I got these clients. We're gonna get some deer, we're gonna get some elks.
Ella, you're muted.
Alrighty.
So Phil gets out
Can,
there.
can you hear us now?
Yep, gotcha.
All right. Then, since she's done fooling around with her computer, maybe she can give us an outreach team report.
Yes. So we had a couple events happen this past month in October. Me and Judy ran a booth at Apple Day from about 9 to 2. We saw, I think, around 200 people.
I don't remember what the count was. We had kind of a crummy location, but people
Very poor
found it.
location, but we still had a good amount of engagement. We raffled off an air purifier, got some home assessment signups, and had some great conversations. That was on October 5th. And then just about a week or so ago, there was the Montana Forest Products Week bus tour that Bidder RC&D put on with NRCS, but we lended a hand with some of the promo and some of the logistics. That went really well. There's about 40 people there. We rode around on a basically a big school bus for like 4 hours and saw a bunch of different sites like a mill, some different fuels mitigation, got to look at some parts of the Sherritt Creek fire operations, and it was very informative and it was a big success. So Josh did a great job on that. Upcoming, the main thing that we have in the works is our 5th grade wildfire education programming. So we've got some dates on the calendar. Essentially, we're going into classrooms and teaching science periods based off of the fired up curriculum that NRCS and RC&D and Forest Service put together, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. And there's a lot of different modules in it in fire science, forestry, succession. We'll be teaching specific lessons and activities from that to 5th graders, hopefully in every school in the valley. So far, we've got 5 different schools, but I'm in the works with a bunch more. So it's looking like we'll kind of have a pretty big scope and a lot of dates on the calendar. So if anybody is remotely interested in coming in and helping me teach one of those days, we'll have a lot to choose from. There's days where there'll be 4 classes, days that'll be 1, days that'll be 100 kids, days that'll be 5. So based off of what you're interested in, reach out to me. So yeah, so we're gonna prep it. We're gonna let the teachers know to what modules we're gonna be teaching ahead of time. And then based off of who wants to come in as well as sort of that guest speaker, they can have a little input too on what modules they teach. So Dan, if you wanted to come help, we can do more forestry oriented. If a local fire department person wants to come out, we can do more fire science. Basically, we're just showing up at these schools, teaching some good lessons, and having that presence, bringing them some fun smoky swag, bringing teachers resources, and just making those connections and partnerships across the valley. So yeah, that's kind of the big thing on the calendar. We're continuing to talk about the insurance problem, brainstorming some different ways we can get that information to learn a little bit more about wildfire insurance and how it works here. We are reaching out to a couple folks with the state and putting together tentatively a kind of survey to trying to get that information from insurance folks.
Yeah, I contacted by email on their website, the Commissioner of Insurance and Securities, and told him what we were looking at, and we just kind of wanted an idea of how insurance operates in the state and how they make decisions about who gets insurance and who doesn't. Because we get questions when we do these home assessments and we don't have answers. So he has not responded yet. Hopefully he will. Kind of at the mercy of people responding.
Yes.
I
So-
don't think they have a clear answer yet, because I asked that question when they spoke at one of our state realtor association meetings. And they didn't have a good answer for us then.
Well, the first guy that I talked to was in like consumer services or something. And he said, oh, you should just Google that. And I said, that's not very helpful. So then I sent a letter to the commissioner and I said, I'm going to the top because I haven't gotten any help from your other departments. Pardon?
That was worse than no answer.
Yeah.
Google it.
Get any answer you want.
That's what I meant. We didn't get any clear things
Mhm.
with our, 100+ realtors and that too. Right.
Yeah. But I would think the commissioner would want his organization to look like they're doing something, so he'll probably come up with a name of somebody who's willing to stick their neck out.
That will
Yeah.
probably put
Yeah.
off till next year because there's a new commissioner coming in.
Oh,
So y'all are gonna be asking like who gets approved, who doesn't get approved, insurance rates, but I know some states say, doesn't matter if, like, we just look at what your risk is, period, right? If you're a risky area, we say that, but some states give you incentives for doing things, right? Like Oregon says, you've done this dispensable space, we're gonna give, there's a handful of companies that give you a discount on your insurance rate, right?
Mhm.
yeah, we've only heard of one so far, one insurance company.
Yeah, so essentially we're just trying to do some research and hopefully we can survey a couple folks. We're starting to put together a list of questions to try to get even a glimmer of information that we can give homeowners. Especially how much these national issues affect our local Montana insurance as well. If it's the same insurance company that has properties that are, on the coast in Louisiana, is there those hurricanes affecting wildfire insurance here? So
And
It's
who
an ongoing
knows,
problem.
maybe the answer is those actuaries that sit in their basements and don't talk to people are probably the ones making the decisions and we can't do anything about it.
It's the reinsurance companies. I have had some background in insurance years ago. And it is the insurance companies, or the reinsurance companies, a lot of it. And hazards, they group everything together right now. The hurricanes are affecting all homeowners insurance rates all over the nation. Wildfires in California that will affect us up here. And the insurance commission here, that they do not approve or disapprove rates unless they figure it, take a look at it and they determine a rate increase is excessive. And then they'll challenge it. But they are not allowed to disapprove a rate or set rates.
So maybe someday we'll get somewhere.
Yeah, so project ongoing. The wildfire smoke project is also ongoing. Right now, I'm just investigating where we can get some funding to perhaps buy some air cleaners for this coming wildfire season. So stay tuned on that as I get answers. The next outreach team meeting is November 21st. Originally, I scheduled it on Thanksgiving. That has been changed.
Thank you.
So it'll be November 21st, at the Bitterroot National Forest SO, in a conference room. And that's conference room is gonna be in the invite I send out to,
At 10?
Hmm?
10?
at 10 AM, yeah.
And for the new folks here, we have a few teams that meet outside of this monthly council meeting and we talk about specific things. So the outreach team is outreach and education and things like we're
Programs.
talking about now. So if you're interested in coming to one of those meetings, it can be fun. And sometimes we have food. Okay, so Ella's got all the poop here, so
Yep.
how about assessment team report?
Yeah, so we did 10 assessments in October. Me and Judy did 3 last Friday, and I said, no more. It's done. It's too cold. And we've done enough. We've done 70 total in 2024, which is very exciting. Last year I looked at the spreadsheet and it was 34. So twofold increase is pretty cool. And it's leading me to start thinking about what our 2025 goals might be.
Well,
and
don't
what
you
kind
have
of
a lot in the
numbers.
queue? I mean,
Do have a lot in the queue. I probably have 15 in the queue that for sure want to do them in the spring. And then I've got a lot of other folks to reach out to as well. And a lot of those folks that are in the Firewise community that also want to do a full assessment. So probably looking at 20 for March, alone already. So we got big goals, and with those big goals come, assessment trainings. Anyone who wants to get trained up, who wants to start going out on those, whether they want to do it independently or come with someone like me or Russ. Yeah, just start thinking about it. Keep it on your mind, what your schedule looks like. And let's start thinking about how we can get even more assessments in 2025.
Alright. Okay, the bylaws team.
Back on your list.
John Ames.
John was out because he had, foot surgery,
Oh, right.
so.
I will put
Put
it
him
back on
back
that list.
He's off the injured reserve list. And you've got 2 to drop in for Florence.
Okay, the bylaws team, we keep saying we're going to meet and we're gonna draft some bylaws, but we haven't yet. And now I want Ella to be there with us and she's going on vacation to Italy
Aw.
in a few days, so. That's not likely. The bylaws team will probably meet sometime late in the month,
Mhm.
so. That's not much of an update, but that's the way it is. Okay, Qualtrics, this and tracking hours. We have this on the agenda every time. Mostly to ask if anybody's having any trouble putting their hours in. But it's also a good reminder for me to remember that I haven't put my hours in. So hopefully it's a reminder for you too, because if we track our hours, it will add up and it will make a difference in some future grant where we need to have equivalent hours. Or they don't call it equivalent, what are they?
You're the fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Any kind of volunteering, meetings, anytime you're spending anything on Fire in the Root, you can.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Come
even
all of that is in-kind contribution.
in kind,
Yes.
that's the word. And I think that even includes our drive time to
Yes.
get to meetings.
Yeah,
Yes.
so you can track all that and it doesn't have to be exact. You can ballpark it too. But yeah, make sure you're putting those in. And we can reach out to Kimberly to get those printouts as well to make sure, so you guys can double check as well. She's looking into changing ownership of that database to us, so we can check it for you. But that's still in the works. So if you're confused about your hours, we can email her.
Right.
Did we get an answer to the question of if you go back to a previous month and change the number? There was some question about how the edits came in. Did we get an answer to
Yeah,
that?
I'm not sure we got a complete answer on that.
I
Pardon?
think it does just
Right.
duplicate it. Yeah,
Duplication.
yeah.
So she's,
You end up with double line. You get the first entry, the first time you made the entry, and then the second time that same month, if you added any other hours, it would just do a second line.
so what she did last time, Ken, was printed out our hours and teeny tiny little writing on big sheets. And I didn't bring them tonight for you to look at and see what you've already put in. But in the future, we're gonna find a way to get that more obvious so that we can show everybody what they've already put in, because sometimes, like, I will do my hours once a month and I'll look at the calendar and estimate how much time I spent on each thing and sort it all out. But then next month I remembered something that I should have put on there.
Exactly.
And so we're gonna have to figure out a way to get those things printed so that we can make sure we're not duplicating the hours.
And also, if you find your name in one spot, don't quit looking, because it could be listed in a couple of other areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not an ideal system, but hopefully it will get better. Okay, next thing is last month we had a considerable conversation about ground rules for productive discussion. And people wrote down some comments that they had or ideas. And Ella and I went through all the comments and discussed them, and we found the items that we highlighted in yellow here are the changes that we think covers all the comments. So you only have to read what's highlighted in yellow. Just have to see the difference. And so I guess I would like to ask if, after you read those yellow items, you feel like, well, maybe you can remember what your comments were last month. I didn't bring all your
I
comments.
just have a question.
Yes,
Should I understand that this is comments that we may undertake to say, well, we're gonna operate this way, but is that also on top of Robert's rules? Or was there a prior agreement to Robert's rules or not?
no, we didn't agree to do Robert's rules.
Was it considered and rejected or just never considered?
There was some discussion about it, and at this point, I think the general feeling was we don't really need such a formal thing at this time, because we thought this was working. And now that we've made a couple of changes, we're hoping that it is working. And Laura, I don't know that I sent it to you. I have copies for people that are here, but I will send it to you if I didn't already.
No, I haven't seen it, so, you know.
Okay, well, let me just read out loud, the one item. Do you have your old version?
No, I'm not at home, so I'm kind of, I mean,
Oh.
it's on my desk at home.
Okay, I'll just read, the yellow highlighted paragraph that we changed. This one says, council members should consider that 3 minutes is sufficient for comments, assuming others will also want to speak. If what you need to say takes more than 3 minutes, the timekeeper will determine if more time can be allowed, given the agenda and schedule. And so the big change there is we specifically said, let's consider 3 minutes and shoot for that. And then there was also considerable discussion last time about the parking lot. The parking lot is where we put some ideas that we didn't have time to deal with in an agenda, because we meet for an hour and a half a month, and I'm kind of a bully about not going over, so if we don't have time, we don't talk about it. And some of these parking lot ideas haven't been resurfacing. So we're going to be revisiting these ideas when we develop the following month's agenda, so they don't get lost. So if you feel like there were other things that we missed or you forgot to say last month when we were talking about these ground rules, you can mention it now and we can consider it again for another revision, or just move ahead with these. Anybody have any comments?
It's fine.
What
Okay.
would be required to adopt them, just consensus or?
Yeah, I don't think this is anything we need to vote on. The people that are here are the ones that impacts, and if in the future we find these don't work and somebody says, hey, these things that you put together aren't working, or we're not following them, then we'll look at it again. And maybe it will be contentious enough that we'll need a vote.
Maybe ask if anyone is opposed to it, and that's it.
Yeah. So I saw several thumbs up. Does anybody have any concerns?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a little concerned about the arbitrary time thing, and I don't know what's the best way to address it, quite honestly. 3 minutes is pretty short to present any real idea in depth. Can someone give their 3 minutes to the person who's talking, or is there any provision for that?
So I think, so the 3-minute time limit is for discussion deviations. So if we're talking about the outreach team report and someone has a question or has something to say during that, that idea expression, if time doesn't allow, should be 3 minutes capped. And then if there's further discussion needed, we either put it in the parking lot for the next agenda item, or we have allocated 10 minutes at the end of every meeting for sort of an open discussion that we can defer that to as well. So it's to keep us on agenda and on time, so that any of those deviations that are happening during those specific agenda items don't like dominate the meeting.
Does that make sense, Laura?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, as you know, from what I've said in the past, I think discussion is how things really evolve and new ideas in dialogue emerge. And so I'm uneasy with things that cut that off, quite honestly, but I also understand the need for efficiency. It just is hard to get anything new to come up among people when there's not much encouragement for discussion, I guess.
Right.
And that is why the provision of the timekeeper will determine if more time can be allowed. So at the end of the day, we want to foster discussion, but we also don't want to go until 9.
Yeah,
since
understand.
Tuesday night. So I think it's like a situationally dependent item too. So if there's time and it's a discussion we all want to have, we can continue to have it. But we also have that enforcement policy where if it's something disruptive or if it's something that's not a positive discussion for the group, that's going to be a large deviation, we also have the capacity to get back to agenda.
We all have.
Exactly.
The reality is, it's nobody's getting stopped for their thoughts and are moving us forward, but it might just not be till the next meeting. And then it gives everybody an opportunity to have their thoughts in place, and then we can have the better discussion instead of like me just rambling on. And having 1 or 2 people leading it. So then everybody has, I think it'd be great to have a little bit of time to think about these new great ideas that we have.
Yeah, and if it's an agenda item too, someone can put together slides, put something written together too, so they can adequately express their idea rather than shooting from the hip, if it's something we really want to explore.
And it also prevents the rehash the same issue, which happens a lot too in some meetings.
Right.
And that's why when you go follow Roberts, you have 2 minutes, and that's it.
Yeah.
And as we move forward with it, there will be some stuff that's old business that can be brought up under old business that wasn't completed in the last meeting. And if it's something that we've just, been made aware of, we can bring that up in the next meeting as new business. It gives people time to hash over, to think about it, or, make some personal inquiries in the span between meetings.
Right. And also, I want to remind people that we are very open and would like to hear from people between meetings via email. If you have an idea that you would like to write down and send to Ella and I, and we could send it out to everybody, that's another way to get ideas flowing. And if you put it in writing, it's usually quite concise because you've had to think about it if you're going to type it up. And so there's always that. And we don't see very many notes from you guys in between meetings, but we want to remind you that they're very welcome and they will be shared. And you'll notice on this agenda, we're also, from this point on, we're trying to make time at the end of our meetings for that open discussion. I don't know if you can see the agenda, Laura, but it's 10 minutes allowed in there at the end.
Yeah, I see it. And I think that's actually that's definitely a good space to have. Yeah, I mean, I'm not dogmatic about this, and really, I just feel that dialogue is the way forward. for new stuff to emerge, and it sometimes has to come out from, disagreement. And so I guess I'm more comfortable with diverse and, opinions really being stated. Yeah, we've been through this before, so I don't think I need to say more. We'll see how it works.
Yeah. We thought this was a start anyway. All right. Then let's move on to Paradise Heights Firewise Community. And because we have new people, maybe you could explain this, Ella, what that is.
Yeah, so the very first community in Ravalli County wants to pursue a Firewise recognition, which is basically an independent agency, has a process that people can band together as a community, make a big polygon of their properties, do a community assessment, submit that, and then do yearly volunteer hours, and they get a sign and they get a national Firewise recognition. Sometimes insurance agencies give, a little bit of a rebate on it, but not often. It's mostly a way to unite communities and pool resources to do hardscaping, Firewise landscaping, mitigate fuels, things like that. So there's a community, they're calling themselves Paradise Heights, on Upper Wyant Lane in Hamilton. 16 properties are participating. We did a community assessment, which is basically a bunch of kind of quick, almost windshield, home risk assessments. We got a group of 8 folks together. June, we'll keep wanting to call you June. Judy and Dan were both there. And we got it done in a couple hours. Definitely there's a common theme of access issues, a lot of heavy fuels and some spooky building constructions. So we're putting all that together. We're gonna be getting that information back to the community.
Define spooky.
Spooky, like wood shake shingle siding. And a lot
Lots
of
of
old,
fuel.
lot of fuel and a lot of kind of old wooden
Like
homes.
derelict buildings too, or no?
Some of the homes, I saw some single pane windows, saw a lot of wooden siding. So, those are
Not a
things
lot
that
I was thinking outbuildings like old garages that are,
Oh, that
flexible.
too.
that too. Yeah, there's a real spread here. So we'll be putting together a community meeting sometime at the end of November. We're also reaching out to the Hamilton Fire Department, since they have that new interim fire chief, Tyson. So reached out to him. Hopefully he'll be coming to that meeting as well to get involved with some of those access concerns. But yeah, so that's the update on
So
that.
you're talking about like access egress for evacuation?
Yes, so the road,
It's like
At
a
that-
deep road
it's
up
like a
there.
deep road, it's on easement, so it's basically put together private easements that are kind of a big patchwork. Driveways are really variable. So yeah, it's a really interesting spot. And in terms of Firewise communities, it might be one of the more interesting ones out there. But it's a community that really needs to come together and have this kind of communication done. So for them to be doing this is pretty important because it's a high risk area for sure. So yeah.
So the access and egress is both for evacuation as well as for access for fire apparatus.
Exactly.
Okay,
And the fire district doesn't actually service most of that community right now.
Oh,
Only the lower half of the road.
and
not
now
in the fire
Serves
district.
that community.
have they applied
no.
Nobody.
to be annexed?
I think the top one applied, what you gotta remember, the way the state law reads, and I'm gonna use her map here, this is perfect. This is a good discussion, we've had people out there, that have been telling people they're in fire districts and they're not. This individual applied to be in the fire district. The fire district boundary actually ends here. In order for him or her, whatever it is, to be in the Hamilton Fire District, everybody from here to here also has to join at the same time. So just because this guy wants to be in, if these guys do not all go on at the same time, they cannot.
And then that would be added to their property taxes.
That'd be added to their property tax.
Yes, and part of this, oh, sorry, Al, I keep talking the second you raise your
That's
hand.
okay. Now, there's 8 people out there that are willing to be assessed. Are they capable of bringing their properties up to a certain level to possibly even be? I mean, I think that's a legitimate question
Yeah.
because of the age of the community.
So with how Firewise works, you don't have to meet a specific standard. You have to show a certain level of effort, and that's shown in volunteer hours and time spent and money spent. And that's why it's just a recognition. It's not any kind of, you don't have to, it's not a specific standard. Ideally, they're gonna be doing a lot of fuels mitigation, especially through our C&D, and they're gonna be doing that home hardening. But essentially it's up to them to see what their 3-year plan is and what their yearly goals are based off of our assessment. There's a lot of folks up there who are capable and committed. There's also a lot of folks up there who are not, on either side. So that's where that community aspect comes in, where those capable folks that have the time and they have the money and they have the desire can help out those folks that aren't so much. And hopefully those community meetings too will bring those folks together and we can facilitate some discussion so they can make some realistic planning too. Because there's some big properties. Yes, we'll also be getting that in there and hopefully then Tyson can be there as well to discuss that since that's not my wheelhouse at all.
But I can see the fire engines not wanting to be on that
Mhm.
Jeep road and particularly at the top of the hill. I, couple of years ago, went all the way to the top doing door-to-door things and I was in a 98 Expedition that was pretty good off-road, but now I have a newer Volkswagen. And my husband said, "You're not going back there in that car, are you?" It's not a good road. And some of the places where you go down, the ruts are this deep.
You get stuck.
They put in some water bars to reduce washout, but the flip side of that is there's these massive bumps that are pretty jarring on suspension.
So they're not even keeping the road up.
No,
Not yet,
Because
but they
it's
know they
that-
need to, and I think they may be trying to apply some gentle peer pressure to get everybody on board.
So they don't have an assessment district for plowing and stuff like that, or a new contract among themselves?
no,
So they're not in the fire district, they're not a county road,
nope,
and they're not all in agreement.
nope.
This ought to be a really interesting.
It will be. It's a big experiment.
It is. It's kind of a doozy for the first Firewise 4-way we have, so.
To get it right out of the chute.
Yep.
But the guy who is instigating this is somebody who talked to his or his insurance man. And his insurance guy is with American,
USAA.
yeah, USAA. And his insurance guy is the one who told him, "Hey, if you get this Firewise recognition, we'll give you a break on your insurance." So he went around and told all his neighbors and they're going, "Oh, really?" Because some of them, I think, don't even get insurance.
Yeah. So,
So there's some
It's gonna be-
incentives here, but it's very iffy. We should pray for them.
yeah, so.
Well, so if, yeah, okay, just suppose there's a fire at
mhm.
one of those homes, who responds?
In Portland, Oregon, Seattle, it does. As long as there is nothing else going on in the fire district, we'll take care of it. If something else would occur in the fire district, they're bound that they would have to leave and go to whatever is going on in their district. Now, again, in Ravalli County, that has never happened yet.
Happened in Whitefish though.
It did happen in Whitefish. that's
Yeah.
right.
And that was and that went very badly for the Whitefish. It was a fire protection district at the time, but it went very badly for them and they got sued by the people who were part of the protection district. and were not serviced because they were doing somebody else. And it was a ugly.
In our Valley County, we're very lucky. We have a pretty good mutual aid agreement with all the fire departments. So everybody responds to you need help. Now, the problem with getting this group into the fire district is their access.
Mhm.
And they have to improve the access to get. And that's just, there you go.
And you have some poor access, and Florence has some poor access. And 3 Mile has some poor access. But we also have like 3 trucks that can make up for that. Hamilton
That's
does,
not.
So you're talking about like road widening, basically, right?
or clearance is more of the issue.
Structure.
Is there grant funding for that? I mean,
Is there what?
grant funding for things like that.
For
So
road
not-
improvements?
Not easily accessible, but Gary Orem, he
From the
comes
county?
from the county's a county forester. He's been reaching out to some DNRC grant folks to basically apply for like a general fund grant for it in January. So he's been trying to put that in the works because it's an easement with so many, that go through so many different properties, as you can see here. It's a little complex and they all have to be in agreement. So, yeah, it's a complex issue and there's gonna be a lot of different people at play. And we'll be continuing to update you guys. Hopefully the community meeting will be at the end of November. So I'll have some more info at the December meeting.
But the really good news is the people who haven't even thought about their fire risk are getting a lot of good information about what their risk is, and they
Mhm.
might be motivated to do something about it.
And at least they have a neighborhood group
It's
chat. now.
individually,
Mhm.
that's a good thing.
Right.
Yeah, it's neighbors who have never even spoken to each other now are on an email chain. So that in itself is a pretty big step forward in this area since it's so dense and since the road's so crazy.
And some idea to throw out there too on that is if anybody in the future is looking to sell and they sell and somebody has to pull a loan on it, there is gonna have to be a road maintenance agreement put into place for a bank, for a mortgage company loan on it. So if they get started on it now, and that would also help who own the money to
Yeah,
improve
if they ever
that.
want to sell their houses, I mean.
So if a fire department goes to a non-fire district fire
Right.
and they're not called off to go to another fire, and they fight this fire, save the house or not, are they billed for that?
No, not in Valley.
They can be, but they are not.
So there's really no incentive for them to do that.
Well,
Your incentive is you convince them that if there's a fire somewhere else in the district that we can't. Respond. Or that we can't respond to because we can't get our trucks to you.
and it's not just fire.
It's
Because
ambulances.
because we get,
Ambulances, we walked into one of those online lane
and we have,
4 months ago.
and I don't know about Victor, but 80 or 85% of the calls in Florence are now EMS calls. And they're probably, that's more common than not, that trend is more common than not, and even though that doesn't seem like it's gonna be that big a competition for resources when you're all volunteer fire department, especially during the day,
Yeah.
you know, you only have a few people that are gonna respond, and if you use them, yeah.
The other thing you have to remember, Hamilton has 1 4-wheel drive engine, and that's it, out of their whole fleet. So, we have a 4-wheel drive ambulance here, and you cannot, like Judy said, you can't get up there without a good bike and spirit.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
and then one of the,
idea is a good one. I mean, there's one of these, Firewise communities outside of Fort Collins that a friend of mine lives in. And it's a big area and they're really organized and they've had a number of wildfires in the area, obviously, Fort Collins. And they own their own chipper. They've done all kinds of grants as a group. And it's an organized thing.
yeah, this could be the start of something big.
Maybe. I'd have to look at the map and figure out the area.
Well, we should probably move on. But that is a really interesting experiment on, Friday. Friday, when Ella and I were on one of the, complete home assessments up there. The homeowner said, oh, there's so much gossip and stuff going on in this neighborhood. I don't see how this is ever gonna work. So,
Yep.
all right, so Kendall, we asked Kendall to come and give us a presentation about what he does, because we like to know what's going on and we like to know more about our partners. And so, I'm gonna get out of the way.
This is a small group today, and also it's very informal, so you can ask me questions. I can also make it really short, so we can all leave, or I can make it really long and talk for hours, because that's just how I am, so. I actually was like, I'm going to put a couple of things on slides, so I don't just start rambling, and if you can't understand my southern accent, let me stop me, but, again, Kendall Seiler, for y'all that do not know me, and so my position is the, Bitterroot Project Coordinator for Pheasants Forever. So it's a joint position. So I work for Pheasants Forever, nonprofit, national habitat company. But the Forest Service has some funding and help pay for my position. So it's that's how I exist here. So first year in its infancy, and yep, so we're having fun doing it. So some stuff that first, before I actually get going, I do want to say all the men and women from the Forest Service, the DNRC, the local fire departments this year busted their ass for this valley. So I want to say thank you. I don't think we say that enough. There was a lot going on. There's still stuff going on. I work right next to them, watch them all stressed out and how hard they work. So that being in there, I know some people have done it, but it was a hard year. Maybe all the smoke will make people start listening to what we're doing again, and we'll get some funding for some of this stuff. But they worked really hard, and I want to say that we should all say thank you to them if you have an opportunity. So some of the stuff that I did in this first year. So we did a lot of private land field treatment down in the West Fork. So I was going to work on the Mud Creek project. That was kind of going to be my big project to start with, and that got under litigation. So we shifted funding around, and with the help of the Forest Service, I got about 600 acres completed down in the West Fork. We were able to create some pretty good fire breaks in some areas. Want to give the West Fork crew a big kudos to that too, because they really determined some areas that were very important since things were stopping. And then we were able to reach out to some larger landowners. And then we were able to get them to, we paid 75% through funding that we had, landowner paid 25%. So it really made it work. I then, we had some crews that we have some fixed cost in. We got them in here and we got that work done. So that's exciting. If you drive down the West Fork, you see the piles everywhere. Those are all piles. So we got to let them sit for a year to really dry out before we burn them. But they look really great, and they're all over. And then we had some other money that came from some of this DNRC funding that Pheasants got. And so Josh, that we've heard his name brought up a lot from the RC&D. We were going to subaward the RC&D $190,000, but me and Josh started talking, and since I had these crews from these other projects already mobilized, which is part of the trouble here in the Bitterroot, is getting the crews here. And we had a lot of workers that were in from Honduras, and they were really good, and they're very affordable. So me and Josh, I took that money back from him, and me and him went down there. We plotted all these, got 11 more. In the last second before their work visas expired, we got 11 more properties and about another 100 acres that we were able to get done this season, which give the RC&D a lot of credit, because they could have said, no, I want to do it ourselves. We worked together just because I think that's how we need to do it this valley, but he was super easy to work with. So I'm hoping that it'll be a long-term relationship. But also I think too, we're all hoping the RC&D gets that money, so there's $1 million for Fire in the Root. But I think all of us partners, if we're not working together, because what if they strike out? I just hope they don't. If I'm not going for funding and we all put our, everything here. So I just wrote a grant and I'll talk about it in a little bit, for $2.3 million. And when I wrote it, I put
$800,000 to give to the RCND in it, because the work they're doing is amazing. But, and I didn't ask Josh to do anything because but I know what they're doing, so, yeah. But having them as a partner on that grant might help us get it too, because it shows that collaboration. So if it's working with the DNRC or the NRCS, or with Mule Deer or Turkey Federation, there's a bunch of partners that are coming here. The Land Trust got millions of dollars to do field work here in the valley. So if all of us are working together and maybe not just doing our own projects, I think we're gonna be a little bit stronger. I've been trying to do that. It's hard. Everybody's busy. I mean, you know, we work close to each other, but how often do we talk? 3 desks away, but everybody's running around or they're sitting there on their computer and then they take off to another project. So, I think all the partners are getting better, but we still have quite a bit of work to do. So I also ran the Calf Creek WMA Conifer Encroachment Project. So it's, Fish Parks and Wildlife has this big idea, and it's also butted up to the National Forest. That's the Gold Butterfly Project that's on the other side. And there's some RCND and NRCS projects around that elk population. But we got it, and I did this year, we got 300 acres done, and then we ran out of money. So hired contractors, work is awesome. You can go walk around it. So we got some conifer encroachment and some some forestry work done on that property. And I have a grant for 400,000 that I wrote to the DNRC, or 355, I guess is what it is. So it's a WUI grant. So hopefully we'll find out if we get that, then we can finish that project next year. So, fingers crossed on that one. So, and then, yeah, just continuing to try to build relationships with these partners and different people in the community. So. What do we need in the valley? I think this is going to be the ongoing, but it's funding. It's always going to be money. I can tell you, just speaking of the people that I've talked to, nobody says no. If you got the money for their projects, it's pretty easy to get somebody to say yes. I mean, every time I had a chunk of money, we did fuel mitigation until we run out. I mean, and it's big chunks. I mean, 190,000, boom, it's gone. 300,000, boom, it's gone. I mean, it's just constantly. There's so much work that the men and women have figured out what needs to be done here. It's just getting the money so we can actually get it done. Because like me as a landowner, I could not afford $100,000 to have my property treated. I have a chainsaw and a tractor, so I get out there and I've treated a lot of my stuff myself. But when you start looking at these bigger properties, when we're on that field trip, I mean, that one landowner is 1,000 acres, and it's been worked on, but the fire still came through because it hit the areas that hadn't been treated. And if it wasn't for the Forest Service doing fuel breaks, it would have burnt and gone down to all these other people's houses. I mean, so we need more money so we can do more work. The science is there, so I don't think we have to debate that. And so we need cheaper timber hauling in this valley with the mills closing, and we need other options. So now we're running into what do we do with this wood? So I mean, Josh is pretty clever. There's a lot of other loggers that are trying to come up with ideas. I mean, there's some grants for ideas like how can we get maybe some firewood out to seniors or to vets. I mean, but it's such a small amount. There's so much wood that needs to get taken out of this valley to protect it. I mean, you know that. I mean, it's what do we do? I mean, people are putting bids out for these logging contracts and nobody's even bidding on them. I mean, it's crazy. People are like, why don't you do it? I'm like, well, nobody wants to do that job, especially if you're south of town and I mean, it's a lot of trucking to get from the West Fork. I mean, so there's a lot of logistic nightmares. I think that the partners are going to have to start to, well, we already are dealing with it. And it's just going to get worse. So I think the collaboration and then like sharing our resources or sharing like the knowledge that we've learned is how we're going to get better. I like the DNRC, like, you know, they're going, this is the rates that we got and trying to help other people. This is pretty awesome. So I've seen that in this valley firsthand, like everybody trying to work together, but we're going to have to maybe have about a decade of us doing that before we're used to it, because everybody's a little gun shy or they forget to call and ask. I mean, so I think more collaboration is going to be needed.
What's the closest mill?
the close, well, I mean, there's a couple little bitty guys, but I mean,
Big time ones are gonna be, Sun Mountain and Deer Lodge. And then you can, a pulp mill in Bonner. And then there's gonna be one Thompson River, Thompson Falls, Thompson River lumber.
but they're all taking like 1 or 2 loads now and stuff too. That's the problem.
That was a really big issue that I didn't realize when we did the forest product tour. Like Sean Stoker, he's the main man in the valley when it comes to logging and working on these projects. And he was saying they're putting like limits on how much they can send to the mill. They're like, I'm only gonna take 1 load of Doug fir a week from you.
One, and he might need to have like 40 going out just from one job. And he's one, I mean, and so it's,
So I have to think about how long that's prolonging the project that he's working on, installing that up. And then just getting, like coordinating people to haul the logs and all this stuff. And then half of the time that is even being removed is probably being sent to the pulp mill.
oh, it's
Like
like,
when in reality, it should be saw logs, but with pyramid down.
Is anybody buying pyramid yet?
no.
I've heard stuff in the talks, but I think it was like just last month, they auctioned off all of their
Yeah.
equipment.
Yeah.
I think everything fell through, which
That's
was,
not a good sign.
No, it does look like it's going to.
Every
interest in a
like new
pellet mill?
controversy,
Right, they're the only ones that were doing fine.
For me to buy one?
No, not you. Okay, let me rephrase that. Is there any scuttlebutt out there that there's any interest in a pellet mill company?
Well, we need some, so the Forest Service just had a grant for like this innovative industry. And we need somebody in this valley to take this on. If it's a wood pellet mill, if it's, you know, shredding for, you know, horse bedding, if it is, you know, fire, there's stuff being done in other places. But, you know, none of us can go tell somebody to go take out $1 million loan. I mean, to buy a chunk of land here in the valley to go put firewood on is pretty expensive these days. So there's cooperatives across the country where people are sharing saws and stuff. I mean, there is innovative ideas and there is some funding. It just needs somebody to sit down and do it.
it's gonna take a group of really determined people to really bring back the logging industry. In Montana, and I'm still relatively new here, and it's like kind of depressing for me when I came in being like, oh, the mill's closing down, and then I go and do my inspections with the loggers, and they're griping about time and how no one wants to buy it and the price, and it's like, if we just keep letting it fall to the wayside, you know, 10 years will go by, and then these loggers, they're gonna be a totally dying breed, and then we're gonna have all these fields loaded up, and it's like, ooh, what do we do?
It's a need. I mean, we have the commodities. I mean, but what do we do with it, man? I mean, so.
And like you said, the grant funding is there. It's just people need to be determined enough to go in.
So, I mean, yeah, it's one of the things I do now was not what I was hired, was writing grants. And I constantly do it because at the end of the day, it comes back to that top one, that funding. And if I can, we have a plan and I'll show you in a second. We're trying to get to this forever fund, but without just constant money or stuff. I mean, to make it cheaper. I mean, still people go to Home Depot for their cheaper, you know, Canadian 2x4. And it's tonnage, but it's been subsidized up in their country. So a lot of times it's cheaper. Or they don't even look. I mean, we went to a really awesome mill here in the valley and I don't know who all's been there, but they're doing stuff here in the, you know, it's right across from the Tinsman. It's where I used to go to get barley from them all the time and I didn't even know it existed. And I'm sitting there going, I've been in this barley field 100 times. And I did not know that that was across the street. And I'm somebody who is a wood nerd and built my own house.
And he's doubled his business in the last 2 years.
And he's down pulling logs out of Salmon area right now because they're loggers at heart. So, I mean, but those loggers, I mean, it's fire season. They go make their money doing firework. That's also how they subsidize this. And so they're staying in business because they care about it. But usually they have to do something else too. I mean, that's the other thing that I'm learning. So.
Talk about some of the firewood, if you're looking at like a land to put firewood on to sell, or they just.
Well, that's one of the like things that I would love. I was just working on a project and the gentleman that was there, it was fuel mitigation. And we took 40 acres of pieing down. And he's retired Navy, and he kept on saying, Kendall, I'll give this to anybody in need. But but we were, it's getting burned. That's what happened to it, okay? It's not, he was like, I wanna see this, like, somebody, if there's any vets that need this, or anybody, like, but I'm like, I don't know where to take it, unless I leave it here on your property and have random people showing up. But I mean, it's something that, I mean, I'd rather see the Kmart be given, like, that old property, having something set up. I mean, there is so.
How much ground you did?
I don't know.
Ideally, would you need an acre, 2 acres?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't really know that, cause I haven't thought about it that much.
Let's get together.
But in my mind, I still think there is a solution. I mean, when you said the wood pellet mill, I mean, I can tell you how much pellets are sold in this valley. I mean, if you look at Murdoch's in Lakeland, there's semis that are coming in, but they're being made in a different state. So, I mean, and just saying, like, the shavings, I can see there's semi loads of wood shavings that are sold here in this valley. So
And they're not cheap.
no, but I mean, if they were still being made here, I mean, it would be a great business. Again, I'm slowing down in my life, working at a nonprofit. I'm not starting a business. And if you want to, I will tag you. I will talk you up. I will help you write a grant. So one of my nerdy things is, like, I am a plant person. So, like, the native grass seeding. So the thing that I feel like we miss a lot of times in the fuel mitigation is that we disturb the soils, and then we don't go back and we don't deal with weeds, and we do not deal with, like, overseeding. So me as an ag background, I've just seen cheatgrass, fentonata, knapweed, you name it, take over. I mean, cheatgrass is a number 2 fire starter in the western United States. So, and I keep seeing it. So, but we don't have the money to do all the field work here that we need to do, and it keeps getting missed. So it's not targeted in any RC&E project. It's not on any NRCS, none of the forest, like, so it's like maybe where they disturb the road, they'll seed a little bit, but we don't touch it. And so that's kind of my thing that I am going to work on for our community. So right now I'm working on a $2 million grant for seeding in the valley. So then I could partner up with any of our other partners, the DNRC, I could partner up with RC&D, I could partner up with the NRCS, anybody if I can get that funding. So I'm hoping to get that one, because it's something that I feel that we're missing. Plus, from a habitat standpoint, and also native grass seeds or native flowers. Some people don't care about fuel. So it's about our messaging. So me and you talk every time about flowers, right? So, I mean, I've learned, like, if you can talk about elk or, turkeys or this and that to this guy, they might listen about fuel. Or if you talk about, to my better half, if you talk about wildflowers and when she's hiking, the fuel doesn't, it doesn't matter. But you talk about this other thing that is still a component of a healthy, vibrant forest, they'll listen. So I'm hoping that's just another component that all of us partners could help sell, so we can have this, a great forest here in the valley. And then it goes back to the education of landowners. It's when we're in front of them, it's knowing how to change our message for different people. That's where I will criticize the Forest Service. It's where their science is really good, but I've noticed some of the time they're so driven and, like, knowing what to do. But when it comes to talking to the landowners, they are like, I'm like, oh, just like, let me go have some tea with that lady. I'm gonna sold her on this, and they're like, all a bunch of dudes sitting around, but so I think there's something that way we can all learn from each other, that maybe there's a soft sell, there's people that can help each other with what we're trying to get done. I will barely touch on it, but so Pheasants Forever is trying to bring, it's called the Forever Fund. That's what we haven't completely coined it, but that's what we're going to call it for right now. But we're trying to get a innovative financing going on in this valley, and we'd have a bond in place. And so this revolving fund, so instead of going to the DNRC and getting money once, that we would get some, and then we would put it into this bond, and then we could start using the money that's coming out of, that we're making, the stock market, and then we can use that to borrow off to get more conservation done. So we are already using it in other states. And so Blue Forest had done it in California. We just launched it in a couple, doing some beaver dams in Oregon. We have it going in Arizona. So we feel that here in the Bitterroot, there's never not going to be projects needing to be done. It's just going to be a lack of funding. So we can get some initial capital then it could just keep perpetuating itself. So when the landowner pays back their 20%, it goes right back into that fund to help the next person. So then on the front end, when we say, hey, it costs this much for the contractor, Pheasants would pay the contractor to move the conservation forward. They'd pay us back, but we would give them that loan for like 0%. Because we want to be the catalyst for this conservation. So we have launched it in other states. We haven't got the initial, you can skip to the next one, the initial capital here. So when we're doing that forever, like we can use it on practices like NRCS practices, which might be another way for us to get some more funding. But it just allows us to provide this loan. So I'm not gonna get too much into it if anybody has questions. But this type of financing, I think it's probably gonna be the future for doing more conservation work. And it seems that other people are starting to agree. And it's working in other states. So go to the next one. So, yeah, so bottom line, we need to find the capital. We have some different ways. I might be able to get it through some of these grants, but I'm just kind of reluctant. It'd be nice to have just one rich benefactor come in and say, I mean, but you know, that's all it takes sometimes. I mean, if we had 2 million, we feel like it would turn into about 20 million in this valley that we could have. So, but we were trying to shoot high. Think I've sold it to my bosses that let's just get it going with a couple small projects and at least get it launched. Because it'll be easier to sell the idea to people that they can see it going instead of wait till we end up with, 2 to 5 million. So we are hoping to do that sooner than not. But it is our goal. So going back real quick about grants that I've been doing. So this is the one that I wrote. It's the IRA grant. It was for climate mitigation and forest resiliency. So this is the one where I was saying that I'm gonna, if we get awarded, we'd also sub-award some to the RC&D. This is, yeah, I mean, this is part of my job now. So this is what I'm doing here in the valley. If we have this will be forestry and fuel work done $2.3 million in the valley. And hopefully we'll find out by February. So unfortunately, this is what I get to do. If anybody's really good at writing grants, you can write them for me and I can do other stuff. So, but yeah, no, yeah, go ahead. I think that's about it. I mean, so we have, Forest Service priority areas. There's 3 NEPA projects here in this valley. So we've been kind of focusing around those for right now. But bottom line is we're gonna be working through the whole valley. Pheasants did just get $25 million for the state of Montana this last week. It's not here in the Bitterroot. It's doing more stuff in central Montana, but it was through the NRCS. So we got it and it's gonna be doing all grassland restoration, but it's a commitment to Montana. So I want to say that, like, again, success breeds success, but they have really decided to try to expand what we're doing as far as the rest of the country into Montana. So that $25 million we just got awarded. So we'll be going into the states. So we're hoping to use that to do more work with other partners. So people that might get excited about that kind of stuff, let me know and I'll put them in touch with my bosses. Maybe they'll donate the money we need to do stuff here. So, that's it.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is Pheasants Forever's long-term goal to create a situation much like South Dakota has to generate a hunting environment?
Well, so I mean, at the end of the day, it's about habitat. And so recreation and tourism is the catalyst in a lot of rural communities. And so, yes, I mean, I can focus just on forestry. I can focus on just on habitat. I can also go right towards recreation and tourism. My bosses are like, whatever gets us to the conservation, go, figure it out. I'm the only one doing forestry work out of 780 employees because that's the need here. So I was kind of just thrown to the wolves because we're really good in grasslands. We're really good on buffers of farm communities and these CRP land is or these easements and different things, but the forestry in this valley and when they just looked at like the potential for catastrophic fires and loss of habitat, this is one of the worst places in the US and it's the worst in Montana. So here I am. So I got thrown in, you know, so I went from a background of a farm kid and, doing all crop advising and dealing with grasses. But because I had the natural resource management degree and the background and doing that, it was like, here, go back into the woods, which is awesome, by the way. But it was, you know, 20 years I was removed, but we have to protect this forest. I mean, on both sides. Or we're gonna lose the habitat and which we lose the opportunities for, I mean, why do most of us live here? I mean, none of us are living in eastern Montana where it's flat or, you know, same within Colorado. It's like, what you saw in Fort Collins there, I lived in Fort Collins for a reason, because it was awesome. Eastern Colorado was not. So, I mean, and that's where the tourism is. That's the opportunity for, you know, us to have, you know, all make a living, right? To protect our natural resources. So that's what we're trying to do. And if there's a better way to do it, we can adapt. Being a nonprofit is kind of fun because, I mean, the Forest Service tells me, or the DNRC, everybody says, hey, no, let's do this. I'll shift. Like, at the end of the day, if it still meets our mission, yeah. Man, the seed thing that I'm talking about, nobody was doing it. If somebody was doing it, I would love to not have to worry about it. I mean, but it's just being missed. And so if I can help that and, you know, pass that on to the land trust or to the RC&D. And maybe that's one thing that Josh doesn't have to think about. But he understands it needs to be done. That's how we all work together. So.
Well, thank
All
you
right.
very much. One thing I appreciate about Kendall since he's been coming is every time he talks, you hear partnership. So that's really great. We love having you come. So we decided we were gonna leave some space at the end, and it is the end.
Yeah, we
So-
got 7 minutes.
This is our first attempt at making a little time at the end for any questions that were not on the agenda or things that we did talk about that you want to ask more questions about. So it's kind of an open discussion time until 8:30. Does anybody have something they want to ask? Kendall?
Did we determine when we're gonna have the meeting for trying to get the nonprofit off the ground? I mean, I know we talked about that.
Well, it's gonna be in association with the bylaws team. And
I mean, I was following stuff and I just was curious when that meeting was.
yeah, Christine is,
The bylaws in place before we apply for nonprofit.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
but we need to have a general discussion before we even start the bylaws with the bylaws team. So no, we haven't got a meeting date because Christine has been busy with her whole summer wedding schedule.
It's my fault.
No. You're just the latest reason.
Oh,
And now,
I've been gone a lot, but I'm gonna be around a lot more.
okay. And then now Ella's gonna be leaving. When do you leave? On
Friday.
on Friday. So,
Yeah.
so in a couple of weeks, we'll get something scheduled.
Yeah. If after the meeting too, if we want to jump on our calendars and
Yeah, that would be
figure out a
great.
date,
can do that.
so it's easy
One
to
thing I
plan.
remember in the bylaws, less is more.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yes.
And there are lots of models you can start from.
I
Right.
think that's,
I think everybody is headed that way. Less is more.
yeah, no, I think that's gonna be a good way to start, so we don't accidentally box ourselves in some
Yeah.
sort of way.
And I got a copy of very simple ones. We are a nonprofit with the Vicar Lodge. And I think they're 3.
Yeah,
or
we
4
want to
pages.
see those.
Yeah, if you could email
Secretary of
those
State
to us, that'd be
comes at the
awesome.
10th
Yeah,
Also,
Yeah.
which is really a good place to start.
if you want, I mean, if you're doing it in the state of Montana, you want to make sure. 'Cause
Right.
Sometimes they have specific requests.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the minimum that Montana asks for.
Yeah.
And then that's, we can tweak it.
Mhm.
And yeah, your rules on how to amend them.
Right. Laura, did you have anything you wanted to talk about? Are you still there, Laura? Is she gone?
On there,
Actually, the bubble's still there.
she might be muted.
Laura, if you're talking, we can't hear you because you're muted.
Is muted.
Anybody else in the room want to bring up any of our old issues that were in the parking lot, maybe? We only have 5 minutes, but 5 minutes is 5 minutes.
Let's keep working on this insurance.
Yeah.
I'll still dry off my end too.
That seems like that's the key to incentives too. I mean, if I were a homeowner who wasn't insured, had a road that the apparatus couldn't get up in case of a fire and wasn't in a fire protection district, I wouldn't be sleeping really well.
Right.
And I think too, another incentive is, we have so many, not as many as we'd like, but we have a lot more fuels mitigation opportunities than we do for like home hardening opportunities, for any kind of financial assistance, or really anyone to refer homeowners to. And I think that's
For
something
hardening.
for home hardening, for, doing that HIZ work. When we're out doing assessments and people wonder about their home ignition zone, we don't really have much to say other than you either do it yourself, you maybe ask your grandson to come help after school, or you hire a contractor. But for outside the home ignition zone,
Contractors like we do for the forestry work.
Right.
exactly, for the forester, who's like,
That would
oh,
really be useful.
yeah, we'll connect you with Josh
Mhm.
Jordan, and there's grant opportunities. And I think moving forward, something too that was discussed at the Forest Counties Summit, that was up in Missoula with a bunch of Missoula County commissioners and folks in the Forest Service and different agencies, was that there aren't those resources and we need to invest a little more in them. So it's something I'm gonna try to keep my eyes open on and ear to the ground on, and see if there's any other avenues we can explore to connect homeowners with those kinds of resources.
Yeah.
We did
it's
a
a big
home
gap.
assessment for Josh's neighbor, and she was really in a high risk area. And
Yeah.
he had some money that she was willing to put out, but she said there's nobody in the business of wanting to do this work.
Yeah.
And she needed some hardscaping done so that she wouldn't have to have plants close to the house. She had a wood house. She had a lot of fuel. And she had the money to pay somebody, but how can we even incentivize maybe some young people who don't have a career yet, but they're looking for
Or job board.
opportunities?
I've been chatting with the Job Corps coordinator, working at a Darby, and we've had a couple meetings. Unfortunately, it is,
They've been doing conservation work.
like, there's not a lot of money for crews, unless it's in fire. So it's about tying that specific need to fire funding. Because if it's not in fire funding, it's mostly Job Corps is volunteer and they're not getting paid. And they're more individuals and there's not crews with hired supervisors that are trained. So we're in cahoots and we're chatting, but there's some pretty significant hoops, and there's a lot of liability too, working with homeowners on their land, especially on their houses.
And something everywhere with insurance agents. I mean, we just made some changes in our coverage. And I mentioned to our agent that we had the risk assessment done, and the details of that, they could not have been less interested.
Mhm.
I mean, I wasn't even looking for a discount. I just thought,
Yeah.
do you guys pay any interest? That literally didn't care.
Like, so what, our decisions are made back east.
That was pretty much the bottom line.
Yeah.
Kendall?
Well, so you might be able to get some names for those workers if you went to like Darby D, Dawn's, like the place, all the contractors are coming in there. So it might be a place to fire the roof, you find out a few people. Or even Donaldson's, I mean, like, well, there's there's hard space, because, I mean, to say that they're not there, because I GC'd in my place and I found people, like, they told me I couldn't find somebody to put a metal roof on the way I wanted it, and I found it. So, I mean, they're out there, but I had to do some investigation and talking. So, I mean, there's houses here that have had their work done, but maybe talking to those places that are selling those products might give us some insight, like, here's the 5 that we really like, or, you know what I mean, so, and then we can pass it along, and have something that says like, you know, we haven't vetted them, vet them yourself. Same thing that we
Right.
do with contractors for forestry. I say, here's my list of 20 people. Ty's really good. I like him, but I'm not telling you who to go to.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, it's your decision,
it's
so
your
we
decision.
don't have the
You're
liability.
people, you know, but
Yeah.
this might be a place where we could, at least point people in the right direction.
And we have a forestry contractors list, so we don't have a contractor list for people that can come blow out gutters or put in concrete around the house, and that's something that we can,
This I've looked at. It's different.
yeah.
I mean, so Josh's is different than RCS, which is, and I've been trying to even pull them together, so, I mean, I think we could find some of those worker bees if we ask. You know, I mean, go in and talk to the, you know, one of the managers at Massa.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Talked to him down at Dawn's. I know the manager down at Dawn's.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cause those managers are all in, I mean, cause those people have, you know, they all have cards, they're all part, more work, yeah, so.
Yeah, getting in contact, seeing what they do, and also getting them our HIZ information as well.
Have a list of like 20 of them and people can call and
Yeah,
make their own decision.
because they don't have to do it themselves. Pick somebody from the list.
Right.
But a lot of these people probably haven't done anything like that in ever,
They
and
don't know where to begin.
Well, a
Yeah.
lot of folks too don't, a lot of folks that I do assessments for don't have an email address, don't have a computer at home. So they're not necessarily gonna be surfing the web, finding places to go. But yeah. Good idea.
You know, and compared to a lot of construction activities, this is a pretty low investment operation. Cause it's a lot of little things, replacing screens, hardening this, caulking that.
Kind of jack of all trades.
handyman stuff.
It's
Yeah.
more handyman investment than it is.
You can have like a
big
handyman
equipment
list
and
and then a
big
more
stuff.
structural list.
Well, our time is up and I wish we had more time for all the ideas. But again, I want to remind you, you can email Ella
Mhm.
and I with ideas anytime.
How
Yeah.
about till Friday?
In Italy.
Yeah.
I will have my phone with me. I will be checking it.
Anybody that's like you in Italy.
Yeah, you don't need to respond.
Okay, we have one question before we leave.
They're new, how do we even email or get them?
Oh, so
Oh,
did you put your email?
yeah, they did.
I'm gonna put you on the email list from it, so you'll get the meeting updates and time and where it is, and then I'll also shoot you an email with my contact info, so you can get in touch.
Anybody who emails or calls Ella while she's in Italy, should be kicked in the kneecap.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna answer only in
Don't
Italian.
email me.
But yeah, next meeting is December 3rd here at 7
Okay, and
PM.
are we
Okay.
finished with the owl? Bye, Kristen. Bye, Jeff. Bye, Laura. And is this for,
Yes, that's for,
before you guys leave, this is for who?
that's for Dr. Peter Kolb.
Oh my
I
God.
forgot to give that to you months ago, and I just found it.
Sign a
You
thank
don't need to,
card
you were.
for Dr. Peter Cole.
Did you want to set,
Buddy.
did you want to set a meeting